is what it means to be brave. Be strong and of good courage.
Live from beautiful, sunny Bristol, Tennessee, the region where they discovered Mountain Dew. And the world has changed forever.
Isn't it a great world?
It's a great
The world is complete with a little bit of Mountain Dew.
It is really unbelievable and telling of our area, you know, as far as diabetes goes.
Diabetes and kidney stones.
Yep. Yeah, both favorites.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, this area of America, for inventing.
Well, you know where it comes from, right?
Yeah, of course I do. They milk the mountains.
Moonshine, man. There's a song. It's a great song. It's an old bluegrass song. They call it that. I'm not going to sing it because
Good old Mountain Dew, that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If I sing it, it'll sound like somebody.
Yeah.
I always say it's like swinging a bag of cats over your head.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard it. But yeah, so yeah, I don't understand how the soda became I mean, they named it from the moonshine.
Yeah,
right?
presumably. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, it's not moonshine. If
No,
you are
no.
drinking Mountain Dew for that kind of feeling, you're mistaken.
I've experimented with East Tennessee moonshine before. That'll put you in slow motion.
Yeah, I had
Have you walking
a
backwards.
friend of mine give me a. First of all, can we clean the jars that it comes in?
No, you don't clean. No, you don't
Like,
clean
I
jars.
mean, and these people that go, you know, I bought Old Smoky Mountain, you know, like I bought real moonshine. It's Old Smoke. It's like, no, see, that has a flavor and it's good, right?
Mhm.
Real moonshine is just like paint thinner.
Oh yeah, you could run your car on it.
Yeah,
literally.
it's disgusting. So yeah, anyway, I didn't go blind from drinking it, but
No,
I've heard you can.
You can go blind if they don't take the heads off. So you got to get the heads are the first part that come out.
Okay, I don't understand it.
Yeah. And so it's a methanol. I forget what it is, but it's a lighter molecule. But it will give you either a nasty hangover if you drink it a whole lot. It'll make you go blind. And I think that it was, or no, it wasn't that. It was also the formaldehyde and other stuff they would cut it with in the 1920s. So during Prohibition, they would cut it with all kinds of really dangerous chemicals to make it last. But I think the heads will just give you a really bad hangover. I'm not a moonshine aficionado, but I have watched that History Channel.
Oh,
show,
History,
boy.
yeah,
Oh,
History Channel.
man.
Okay, yeah.
You watch those guys. You can binge watch that. Go check it out on YouTube. Not now, but go check it out on
I'll
YouTube.
have to
Everybody,
do that.
It's unbelievable.
Boy, we got a lot going on, don't we?
Oh, Lord have
Seems
mercy.
like the world is on fire.
Yes.
So we are approaching summer, and I just want to let's throw this out there. Is this going to be the summer of Chaz again? Are we going to have the summer of love?
Right.
Because it seems like, oh, that's right, we're having an election coming up, 100 and some odd days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the last time this happened, people decided to camp in downtown Portland and occupy courthouses, which is actual insurrection, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You take over federal buildings.
Yeah, but none of them, I don't think any of them paid any kind of like 7 years in jail or anything like that.
No, in fact, our vice president bailed them out. So that they had they had that going for them.
That's right. That's what happened.
And George Soros bailed them out.
Yeah, who is bailing out the protesters on college campuses right now? Like his organization. Which, when you go to his organization's the Act 15.
That one, and then there's Act Blue. That's the donation one. But
so Act Blue, but that's the Democratic Party fundraising juggernaut, right?
It's basically like the donation center for Democrat politicians. They all have an Act Blue account. Republicans have their own.
So
I can't remember what it's called.
This is where I struggle. So everybody that is racist on Columbia University's campus, and I'm calling it what it is. They're racist. You're a racist if you're going to tell Jews that they don't belong. You're racist.
200%.
So they're all Democrats that are doing that because they're all getting bailed out by Democrats, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, anti-Semitism is not it's not a new thing in the Democrat Party, and that's. I mean, when we were talking about Jim Crow South, people think of the way that it was for black people, but the KKK and all those people, they weren't just racist towards black people; they were racist towards Jewish, because people think Jewish as the religion, but ethnically Jewish people are something that they loathed at the deepest levels, and that was the Democrat Party then, and it's the Democrat Party now.
How do you know? Just a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
How do you know somebody's Jewish?
I mean, just by looking at them, I have no idea.
Right, you can't.
No,
right?
you can't.
They're a white guy.
Well, they are. It depends. So there's a lot of people that are, in Israel that are much more olive skinned and all of that. It just depends. Like, I guess the
I mean, there's black people that are Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's, at this point, it transcends every race because they've intermarried. They've done all these things for thousands of years. So
Sure, yeah.
you can be half Jewish and half American Indian. You can be. Are you still Jewish? Is everybody? Dare I say this? Aren't we all kind of products of the Jews?
well, there you go.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, our lineage is fairly clearly written out in the Bible
right, for all humanity.
for all of humanity. Yeah.
So, what, you're against your own kind? I mean, basically, if you're under a rock and you don't know what's going on right now, the elite campuses, the ones that you want to send your sons and daughters to, the ones that are, they go to Columbia or Harvard or Yale, they go to these Ivy League schools where they get a really good education and get out and get a really good job. The ones where the presidents plagiarized to get their position, those colleges, right? That it amazes me that they are being completely railroaded right now and showing bias, showing favoritism. They are being the very thing that they have railed against. Let's throw it out there. George Floyd, we have an entire corrupt organization that's developed called Black Lives Matter, and I had friends that were putting the blackout screen on Facebook and everything else because we were all being fed the same narrative, right? That the police are biased towards blacks, that more blacks get the, and when the facts come out, you read the facts, which, like Biden says, we believe in science over facts, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what he says. Yeah.
When the facts come out, that actually isn't true.
No, it's not. FBI statistics.
Right. It's not true.
Clearly, yeah. And the guy that was what was his name? Made a lot of headway because he was originally a guy who bought into the whole Black Lives Matter movement, all that stuff, and he's obviously a black man, and he was incredibly knowledgeable in this. He did a very in-depth study about police interactions with different ethnic groups, and he found that it just absolutely was not true, and he got shunned in academia, which is odd because in academia, which is where you're supposed to be taught critical thinking, you're supposed to be taught the scientific method,
right?
That you can't go into something with any presuppositions,
right?
You have to go into it with an open mind, and the research tells you what the research tells you,
and
which
now,
he did,
right?
And now he's shunned because of it.
And now it is so opposite of that. Now it is, you can't come in here with any viewpoint other than ours.
Exactly.
You have to affirm our position. Mm-hmm. And so here we are with this corrupt organization called Black Lives Matter that is nothing more than a money combine.
Oh yeah,
right. It's nothing more than propping up a group of people, a small group of people. They don't care about you if you're black. They don't care about you.
None of their money made it into the black community, and so people who with a would say with a loving heart, with good intentions, gave their hard-earned money to this organization, and this organization went out and bought mansions and expensive cars and
did nothing with it.
Did nothing with it. Well, they did a lot with it, but not for anybody else.
So
yeah,
but here we are in this where it's like there's a false narrative about police brutality towards black people and how it's so lopsided and everything else, and the world goes on fire because of George Floyd. And we have all these riots and all these things that are happening. And how dare you? I mean, you couldn't, my sister is African American. Okay, my half sister. So she's half black. They call her half black. I don't know. So I actually said one time she's mulatto, and somebody said, "You know what that means? That means a donkey or a jackass." And I was like, "Oh, she is a mulatto," you know, because she's my sister.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, her world changed because of the color of her skin, because of Black Lives Matter. So the way that she would explain it is it didn't benefit her. People that were acquaintances that she would joke around with and at the grocery store or wherever talked to her a different way, looked at her a different way, and it wasn't with respect. It wasn't with love. It wasn't with kindness. It was with fear that this black lady is going to say something to me. And it just changed the narrative. So, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad, you know, I say it's over because it's been over for me since before it started. I never cared one bit about it. But, you know, it seems like it's like, okay, we get it. That was a flash in the pan. It's over. Everybody was corrupt. Here we are now at a place in time where on MSNBC, they're having a discussion about, well, if I were to walk on a college campus with a hood and talk about black people, if I were to walk on a college campus and mock the gay or mock the Muslim or I would be thrown out on my ear for hate speech. But these kids get to rally around their little flag, set up camp, which their parents are paying for, and then nothing is done to them. Nothing. It's just a free-for-all of hate.
Yeah. I mean, this is legit, like you say, this is anti-Semitism, this is racism, and this is celebrated. Mm-hmm. And it's celebrated by these kids that are going to, you know, Columbia, Harvard. There's another article in here about Harvard, all over the country. NYU, it's popping up everywhere because
you know where it's not popping up? Austin. You've got that clip, right?
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Good on them, Texas. Good on them. Yeah. So all these campuses are just giving these kids headway, letting them do what they want, letting them go ahead and just the hate speech. But in Texas, they arrest students from Austin attempting to set up an anti-Israel Gaza camp.
Yep. This was on, this is actually today. So on Wednesday, Texas police were dispatched to the University of Texas at Austin to restore lawful order after anti-Israel protests erupted on campus, sparking chaos and disruption. Several people were arrested after authorities issued multiple dispersal orders, which were met with resistance and exacerbated tensions. This is from the Post-Millennial. And I could probably show some of these clips here. There's several of them that came across on X, but this is police in Austin. And surprisingly, Austin, being a very liberal part of Texas,
It's like a war zone.
oh, it's crazy. And this is one of the smaller ones. This was hundreds of protesters, by the way. But, you know, most of in these other places, there's, you know, thousands of them.
Yeah.
And to celebrate something as, you know, that I think that they know absolutely nothing about. If they want to understand the tensions that have been in that area for a very long time.
Yeah, here we go.
You know?
Okay, so, and this is it, right? They're getting fed because, and you mentioned this before the show.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we do all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially if you're a college student, you have no concept of space and time because your phone dictates your, I guarantee there are kids that go, oh, the sun went down.
Right.
Like,
shocked.
just no clue. Have I eaten in 2 days? You
Right.
know, all they do is this stupid screen.
Yeah.
50 pro-Palestinian messages
Yep.
on social media to one.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to know why we can't show that clip, it's because Instagram or whatever blocked it, so we're not able to actually pull it up. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd show this clip.
But so it's 50 to 1.
Yep.
The messaging on social media is 50 to 1 in favor of Palestine.
Yeah. And my take on this is that the same thing that fed, like you were talking about, the George Floyd narrative that, again, you can think what you want about it, but from the coroner's reports to other things, there were other factors other than Derek Chauvin. However, we won't get into that tonight. But there was a certain narrative that was fed. Those narratives, as we got into as we were talking about before, the fighting season, right? Spring.
Yep.
Because this is the way it was in Afghanistan. They used the same thing. If the weather starts warming up, people can be outside all the time.
Cold. It's too cold to protest today.
Right. Too cold to protest.
Yeah.
And so we get here into the riot season. They are feeding a narrative based on a foreign conflict that we technically are not in, right? And it's not just Israel versus Hamas and Palestine and the Palestinians, but it's also, Ukraine versus Russia. So they've got two conflicts to choose from. But along those same lines, the Israel versus Hamas narrative has a racial component to it. Except instead of saying we're going to stand up for this race, it says we are going to bash this particular race of people, which would be the Jewish people.
Right.
And they have carried this into the same, small demonstrations, turning into larger demonstrations. The algorithm is pushing it to these kids on their cell phones, and they are just locked into them. And it is that algorithm is just on that loop. And they say, well, it must be true because I'm seeing it everywhere that the Jewish people are bad and Hamas is good. So now you've got people out here supporting Hamas, an international terrorist organization, and Palestine, which you can feel bad for the fact that they're in a conflict. However, the eradication of evil normally comes at the hands of the people who fight them off, right? And that doesn't happen every time. Sometimes there's outside influence. But I always say if people don't want Hamas to be running because the Palestinian Authority is Hamas, 100%, and Israel is fighting Hamas, yet the majority of the people in Palestine support Hamas. So now we're going to say that all of a sudden this war is somehow unjust.
Right.
Because
when they're indoctrinated as children,
exactly,
right? They grow up wanting to behead Jews, wanting to rape Jewish women, right? This is how they're indoctrinated into this culture. And yes, the travesty is they don't know any better because they're not allowed to know any better.
Right.
Okay, I get that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't exercise humanity in a situation like this. However, you're not against a group of people. You're against an ideology.
Right.
And the only way to get rid of that ideology is to eradicate that ideology. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to, I give Israel an amazing amount of credit for the restraint that they're using.
Yeah. They've done the numbers on it, by the way. If you compare it to all the other conflicts around the globe, conflicts for the past 150 years, the civilian casualties per combatant casualty rate is astronomically low, lower than any war we've ever fought.
Right.
As America, lower than any war any European country has ever fought.
Right.
And they are doing something that they don't have to do. They don't have to go door to door.
No, and I think we need to touch on this for just a minute because we were talking about this before the show. The last time I checked, if a country invaded a country and took them over, it's no longer their country.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So Israel becomes a nation. They don't have to share. They never had to share. They could have multiple times over invaded and conquered Jordan, Gaza, Palestine, Syria. They could go ahead and just spread their wings. And they could because nobody could stop them. Look what they did to Iran.
Yeah, they showed a lot with their attack on Iran.
I mean,
that was very strategic and very wise.
And it hurt them bad.
Yeah.
And
Iran launched a lot at Israel, had hardly any effect. Israel had a couple of strikes, but they showed, hey, we can range and attack your nuclear sites without you even knowing.
Yep, no problem.
Yep.
And so, yeah. Anyway, the saber rattling there has kind of it's kind of gotten quiet.
A little bit, yeah.
Because I think Iran realizes they are just way outgunned. They're not even in the same planet.
Which is crazy for a country of 9 million people, 2 million of which are Palestinian.
But that in my mind, I go, well, that's the hand of God, Yahweh, right? That's the hand of God, that He is keeping them from becoming something that's going to. Here's the thing. It's all written out for us, the end times, all of it. It's written out. And they can't do it alone. So the last time I read the Bible, which was this morning, it appeared to me that there were other nations involved coming to help, and they're all going against Israel. For that to happen, though, everybody has to hate the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And boy, a 50-1 message on social media,
Yeah.
boy, that can turn that pretty quickly, can't it?
Oh yeah.
And here's the thing, we've always hated the Jews, right? Society has always hated the Jews
Yeah. They've been attacked relentlessly forever.
because it's a spiritual issue,
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that the king of this world, not the king of heaven, not the king of the universe, not the king, the Lord of Lords, but the one who has been allowed to have authority on this world for a season, Satan, wants nothing more than to annihilate the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
because God picked them,
Mm-hmm.
because through the Jews the seed of Christ was born, right? And so it's never stopped. It's always been this way. And you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to all of you really super educated people, not like me, but Palestine has no right to the property that they're claiming. It's Israel's. And the last time I checked, when Joshua went in and took over, he didn't allow people to live there as much, right? Like, I mean, it was Israel. They kicked everybody out or killed them. They slaughtered everything, and it became their land, and nobody can take it from them if they don't want to. If somebody's going to bust into my house, they're not taking my house unless I let them or die trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are in this place where Israel is being incredibly passive by allowing a place. You know, you want a two-state solution? Palestine isn't a state. It's not a nation. These people belong somewhere else to other nations, and those nations don't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. Why? Because of the indoctrination, because of the viewpoint that they have. And we're watching our kids on college campuses become they're parroting this same vitriol, the same hatred, the same everything without even realizing what they're saying, because the institutions and the presidents of these institutions are allowing it and frankly on board with it.
Oh yeah, they're 100% on board with it. Yeah.
And so to solve it, if you're a big donor, pull it. Just pull you're not getting my money.
Robert Kraft has.
Right. And I think it's going to continue because these things are ramping up without consequence.
Yeah.
I mean, the New York Police Department needs to be allowed on NYU's campus, right?
Yeah.
They need to be allowed to arrest these people for hate speech.
Not for hate speech. I'll push back on that one.
Well, I mean, if you're
First Amendment, but it's when it starts getting rowdy, when it starts impeding people's access
from
to
the river to the sea,
right?
okay, not hate speech, but what it means is
Or the eradication of a group of people, right?
right.
So it borders.
if I were to say,
Yeah.
you know, to keep one out of your backyard, hang one in your front, and that was our chant.
Right.
That's hate speech.
Yeah, it is.
From the river to the sea, not hate speech.
So that's where it gets tricky because legally it has to be a call to action. So you have to be saying go and kill these specific people. I shouldn't have said that because now YouTube's going to cancel me. But go and do this to these specific people. So it teeters, which is why it's a crafty phrase on their part.
Yeah. Okay.
That it's not saying something specifically. It's innocuous, and it's being said by a bunch of know-nothings who don't understand what it means.
Absolutely.
So it's extending the voice
Right.
of an evil ideology that's against the Jewish people, and simultaneously not committing any actual call to action. And that's a debate that's being had right now. It's being had in Congress and all over the place.
Sure.
This should not be said. It's something that shouldn't be said in Congress, in the halls of our, because we know what it means. We're supposed to, they're supposed to understand what that means. But there's a lot of people like Ilhan Omar and others that, have, I believe she has said it. I don't want to, libel or anything, but she has obviously shown a massive amount of support for Hamas and for the Palestinians, who are the ones that put Hamas into power and who refuse to overthrow Hamas. But that's why it gets into a gray area with that chant. I personally believe, because I personally try to stay away from the word hate speech, because hate speech, I say, isn't a thing.
Even though it is.
I totally
agree with you, because we live in a place where we're supposed to be able to speak our mind.
Right. We could say whatever we want to say, as long as we aren't, because it's more like if they were chanting that and at the same time chasing Jewish people down, then that right there is rallying people to action.
So when
that's illegal.
When they're chanting it though, so yes, they have chased them down. They have, they've harassed the.
Oh yeah.
When you've got rabbis on Columbia University saying you don't go to class, right? You can't go to class. We fear for your safety. When you've got a Jewish man coming out of the synagogue wanting to cross the street in England, and the police arrest him because he's the issue.
Yeah.
Not the protesters.
Right.
This is a problem. This is Nazi Germany.
100%.
This is Nazi Germany.
100%.
And yet we don't want to look at it that way, because, well, if Israel would just back off a little bit, it'd be okay. Israel is exercising more restraint than you would. Anybody listening, if you had the wolf crouching at your door, right? You and your kids and your families, we have just all but forgotten what happened and why this all started with the invasion, the murder, the kidnapping, the beheading, the burning babies. We've all but written that off. And it's all part of wanting to flip the narrative, which our social media is doing for us. Yeah, here you go. Here's a great little picture. Nazis prevent Jewish students from entering a university.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's Columbia University right there.
And the same thing is, let's see, I'm going to see if I can pull up that clip. Well, where'd I just put it?
And this is happening on, oh yeah, here you go.
There you go.
Now, when was this? Was this yesterday?
This was, I think it was yesterday.
So a Jewish professor barred from Columbia's campus. Because why?
Because he's Jewish?
Well, that's not racist at all. I guess it's time, it's time for us to wake up. The enemy wants to sow discourse. He is the accuser of the brethren, the divider of the brethren. And all he wants to do is to sow discourse. And right now he's using George Soros to do it, which isn't a shocker. Like, not a shock. He's using the Democratic Party fundraising machine to do it. Not a shock.
No, I mean,
the same people that believe that life doesn't actually exist in the womb. Not a shock.
Right.
It's just evil. It's evil, pure evil. And if you've got a student at one of those campuses, parents, I would highly recommend or consider yanking them out of there.
Yes. It's a waste of money. $280,000
total waste
for them to become an activist. They're obviously not going to class. This is a waste of time. Not to mention that college degrees anyway, they're becoming more and more useless.
Yeah,
less and less useful.
Oh, totally.
As time goes on, this is a world where, learn one of these actual skills. Go to one of the tech schools. Learn to be a plumber. Learn to be an electrician. Learn to be something of value.
Yep.
A gender studies degree is going to be, you're going to be a great barista. That's as far as you're going to go.
That's right. That's right. A gender studies degree.
Yeah, underwater basket weaving is what we used to make fun of. And now I wouldn't be surprised if that's an actual thing. I don't know if it is or not.
It is. So the hatred of Jews. How about the persecution of Christians and what we're seeing right now?
Oh, yeah. Buddy, my notes just got all messed up. I don't know what I just did.
But
The Armenians, that's the one I was going to talk about.
okay.
So if people don't know, the Armenians, they're Armenian Christians. They've been in a conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan for a while. Like, this has been an ongoing conflict. And then on Tuesday, they came a step closer towards normalizing relations. But what happened was 100,000 Armenian, mostly Christians, I believe, were displaced from their territory. This is the Nagorno-Karabakh. A few people had mentioned it, I think, on the campaign trail. But this is, a prime example of 100,000 people being displaced, and all the death and destruction that comes from that. But that's not something to get up in arms about.
No.
It's not, because people think of Christianity, by the way, as a European religion, and it is absolutely, Christianity is not a European religion.
No.
They think of the organized church and of the the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church and all of these. Christianity is absolutely not a European religion, but anything European has been demonized, because they have to have, again, it's an easy way to demonize people on colonialization and all that kind of stuff. And it shocks me that a lot of these folks at the universities will take the side of Hamas, which we have talked about as an evil genocidal organization that has been taking advantage of its people. And Israel, on the other hand, is the one who has been giving them the resources. They pump the resources into Palestine. They are giving them the concrete. They are giving them food and electricity and water and all of these things to sustain them. And the people are being ripped off by Hamas.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
you've
saying?
seen the video footage, right?
Right.
Of the trucks coming in for the people and them coming in and just
Yep.
beating the people up and taking all the stuff off the truck. And
Right.
yeah.
But on the inverse, you've got Christianity, which is on a similar side as Judaism, or as the Jews, obviously, as we've talked about in great detail. But when you see those people persecuted, it's kind of they kind of brush it off as if, well, that's what you get. That's what you get. And so it's fascinating to me that these young kids, and not to mention the good that, we talked about the Jewish people and what they've done for the Palestinians, and the only ones that would take them in, and why their population has absolutely exploded, not just in Gaza, but also in Israel. All the Palestinians that have come out, all the ones that are living and working in Israel, and talk about how amazing it is and how amazing they're treated and how, great that life is, and how much
because
better it is than Gaza.
they're not treated as Palestinian. They're treated as human.
Right. They're just treated as human.
I mean-
well, Christianity and Christians, that is our MO as well.
Right.
So when we go to places, right, our faith, we are reaching out all over the world and doing amazing good for people all over the globe. We extend our reach, and not just across the globe, but here at home. And yet that is what they choose to demonize. And it shows it's a lack of understanding with the core tenets of the religion themselves. These signs for Queers for Palestine absolutely blows my mind. And I think that some of these protesters, if they are so gung-ho on, the Palestinians in Gaza and all that, load up your Queers for Palestine sign, hop off the plane, hold it up, and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just wild to me that the two groups that are doing more good for the people around them, Christians, Jews, are the ones that are being demonized.
And I think what's fascinating about this whole thing is, it's almost the reason why you have Queers for Palestine, okay, is because nobody seems to really understand what is happening. Nobody understands, obviously, I don't think you would hold up the sign if you realized how hated you were by them, right? Oh, I hate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hate the church.
Yeah.
We hate the church. The church they say that being gay is a sin. We hate them. We hate them because they don't agree with our lifestyle. Well, nobody in Christianity that I know of has hung you off of a wall for being gay. right?
Right.
Nobody in Christianity that I know of is going to behead you because you're gay, cut off your genitalia because you're gay. Nobody in Christianity acts that way. And so we might say we don't agree with your lifestyle, but we love you, right? I've got my own skeletons.
Exactly.
I've got my own garbage.
Yeah.
I don't
Everybody's got their burden that they have to bear.
Yeah, I don't need to be pointing at your stuff going like you're worse than I am. You're not. We're the same.
Yeah.
We all have sin in our life. All of us.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says that all of us have fallen, all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, right? All of us. No,
Yeah.
Nobody's excluded.
Yeah.
So this group, though, they don't look at it in a forgiving and loving way.
No.
You don't belong, period.
Yeah.
Because you feel that way about your same sex attracted, let alone if you identify as a furry. Imagine what they would do to those people, right? I mean, really.
Yeah. Hey.
And yet those are the people that are standing out there with signs saying from the river to the sea because they have no concept.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to say what the belief system is, the structure is on TikTok.
And not to mention just the nature of the conflict. There's a lot of people talking about how Israel is fighting this war who have absolutely no idea what it's like to be in war. And when you get soup to nuts on how they're fighting the war, like we were saying earlier, it's nonsensical to make an argument that this is somehow being done from edge to edge, from one end to the other in the wrong way.
Right.
You can't make that argument.
I think in the end, you can't make the argument one way or the other with these people that are being brainwashed and fed this narrative through social media. And I would say this in my mind, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is already their own they're in trouble already, right?
Yeah.
But those guys need to be held accountable for this. I can't tell somebody not to take a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell everybody how
they should side in this conflict.
how Israel, if you're a Jew, you don't have a right to exist, which is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Without saying it.
Right.
And that's the delicate balance. Call a spade a spade. It's wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. If you believe that somebody should be put to death or non-existent because of their race, you are a racist.
Mm-hmm.
You are wrong. You are not on the side of peace, justice, good. You are on the side of the enemy.
200%.
Okay, we're moving on. Christians being persecuted. This I find fascinating and fun. Have you ever had somebody come up and stab you with a knife
Oh.
that for some reason didn't open?
Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah. So this is Marmari. He's the bishop of the Good Shepherd Church.
In Wakele, I believe. I think it's in Australia. Yeah.
And he is, if you've ever listened to him, he is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and play the clip.
This was during a live stream, too, by the way.
Stabbed multiple times with a knife that failed to open.
Yep. I think it eventually opened, but it wound up taking some of the guy's fingers off.
Shocking. Shocking.
And, I won't bring up there's a lot of naysayers out there about him, but at the end of the day, his message is absolutely fantastic. I love listening to that guy.
At the end of the day, he promotes Christ.
He does. 200%.
Over everything. And yes, you might not agree with him theologically 100%. You might not agree with him, church people, Christians, shut your mouth. Just understand, we got to keep the main thing.
Yeah.
The main thing is Jesus came and died. There is no forgiveness of sin without the blood of Christ. And that's his message. And this is what he got for that message.
Now there's some I guess in the Australian government where they have no free speech in Australia.
Yeah.
They're talking about all these talks with Elon Musk, and I'm trying to find the article that I had, but basically they came out and said we need to censor this clip from the internet, And Mari Emanuel said, absolutely not. This has to stay on the internet. Like, everybody has to see this. And now Elon said, well, I can try to, just geo-block this clip. And I think it never said in this article, which I cannot find now. Good gracious, I'm all over the place tonight, man. Here it is. So Bishop Mari Emanuel, the victim of a stabbing at a church in Wakele, said footage of his attack should remain online, the federal court has heard. Basically, I'm trying to find the branch of the government. They can go in and restrict things, and they're saying that Elon Musk needs to restrict the footage of it. Well, because they're talking about it now, the footage has been more widespread.
Oh yeah. That's the
And
way it
so
goes.
they call it the Streisand effect, where the more you say you need to get
love
rid of
it.
something,
Yeah.
the more it shows up.
Yeah.
Which is it's a brilliant way to get it out there. So he's tried to limit it, but the fact that this government organization in Australia has this very broad. Their left and right limits are very broad and very vague as to what they can and cannot censor. And Elon Musk essentially said, I'm not doing this anymore. No, it's not going to get censored. We're going to leave it out here. And I believe that Mari Emanuel, which I didn't say why he wanted it, is he wants people to see that this is the type of thing we should be looking for. This is the type of thing we can expect when we talk about God and we talk about our faith, that there are ideologies out there, like the one we've been, ranting and raving about for the past, 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, we did, Joel Osteen had the woman with the Palestine flag on her AR-15 show up for Sunday morning service, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
didn't make national news, right?
No.
Yeah, like,
Well, it did, but so briefly. It was like gone, there and gone.
so, and more, this is kind of like, if you're a believer in Christ and you have a church on Sunday morning you attend and everything else, ask them about security. If you conceal carry, please do.
Yeah.
I mean, because more and more of this stuff is going to happen. Not because we're in a crazy sick world and everything else. I mean, naturally, but because it's actually prophesied that this kind of the persecution is real. It's going to happen. And in some ways you sit back and go, as a believer and as a former pastor, right? I sit back and go, well, that'll weed out the church real fast. I'm reminded of the story of a group of terrorists went into a church in somewhere in Africa, Rwanda or one of them, with their masks on and lined everybody up against the wall and said, denounce Christ or we're going to kill you.
Where was this?
It was in Africa. It was a long time ago. We're going to shoot you if you don't renounce Jesus. We're going to shoot you. And everybody that renounced Jesus, they asked, they said, you're free to go. And everybody left. And then they took off their masks and said, okay, let's have church for the people that were serious about it, right? Because too many of us it's too wishy-washy, the lukewarm, so yeah, wake up. The persecution's coming. You just saw it. A bishop getting stabbed in the pulpit,
And it's not just going to be one, now it started. It's going to be that slow roll. It's going to be constant progression of it. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say the anti-Semitism has always been here.
Yeah.
However, it's ramping up.
And it's becoming mainstream and it's becoming accepted. That's the crazy part about it, dude.
It's becoming accepted. That's insane to me.
Yeah. It's been accepted before in society, but there was, we only have to go back 60 years.
Yeah.
However long ago that was. We don't have to go back that far. And it was like, if you knew somebody who was racist or you knew somebody who was an anti-Semite, it was just kind of like it's trying to normalize something evil.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's like it's the fight we're in as Americans with a constitution that was drafted in a way that we could get all the way through Jim Crow South and get out of all of that just mess that was, we could say when we talk about, slavery and how horrible that was.
Right.
But it was a world problem. It wasn't just people have narrowed it in on America and saying this is an American problem. It's not a uniquely American problem. It's still a problem today. There's more people in slavery today
Right.
than at any time. And so it's not like it ended there. It just ended here in this country based on racial lines. But it has continued. Slavery has continued in the sex trade and all of the things that we are now getting bombarded with at our southern border. So it's hard for us because we are fighting against just two opposing forces. It's the Constitution, it's freedom, and it's liberty pushing this way, and it's leftist ideology, racism, bigotry, all that sort of division.
But here's the thing. I think this is part of the deception, because the racism, the bigotry, the vitriol, the hatred, all done in the name of peace and love. They have colored the water. They have done a masterful job of getting people to buy into this ideology that they're actually right and doing the right thing and justified in this behavior. They're so blinded they don't recognize it for what it is, and that's hate.
Yeah. They think they're opposing evil, but what they're really opposing is unity and
right.
Yeah.
They're doing the very opposite that they're trying to promote.
Gosh.
And these are our future leaders, right?
That's the scariest part, is that these you'd think Columbia, Harvard, MIT, NYU, that's on a resume. And this is another thing we were talking about before. It's the meat straw of liberal ideology,
it's
right?
the pipeline. Yeah.
This is the pipeline. Is that they control the elementary schools and the younger kids, what they're exposed to. They start indoctrinating them a little bit. They move them through high school into the universities. Make the university something worthy of that degree from Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
Or from an Ivy League school. That's
good.
Oh, it's a good thing, so that you can come out and you can better serve your overlords in the liberal movement.
Right.
And we conservatives are like man, we're
right.
I went to some people out there went to UT, some people went to Georgia. I went to VMI. You go to these smaller institutions, or not smaller institutions, but just your run of the mill school, and
they're bigger. They're bigger institutions,
right? They're bigger institutions, but they're looked down on,
right?
And yet, those are where you're going to find some of the more level-headed,
absolutely
people.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that everybody. There's plenty of indoctrinated kids coming from big universities.
Absolutely.
And I'm just saying these Ivy Leagues seem to be the worst, because they're the ones that get a leg up on their career. They're the ones who obviously know the least. Watching any of these videos or reading any of these articles that we've seen, they know absolutely nothing. They have a very expensive degree, and they're going to go on to be the future leaders of our country.
Thanks, parents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. Mom and dad pay to put them there. They're dumb as a brick, some of them.
Yeah.
They can't even speak English right. I mean,
Right.
It does fascinate me. You brought up the kids. It's professors to students who become teachers, who become leaders, right? And then they have students, and those students, it's just a complete parrot of, I'm just going to emulate. So we're in this bastion right now of, where the transsexual movement, which I don't think is, I think it's waning a little bit right now, because there's other things more important, right? So it's funny. This is the gaslighting. It's all about it. Mm-hmm. But did you know, I heard this or read this, that this push, I want to know who's behind the push to indoctrinate our kids into letting them choose their gender. Because if little Tommy decides he wants to be Susie at 8, the medical pharmaceutical industry makes, over his lifetime, $1.5 million off of this kid.
Per patient.
That's
the
patient.
price per patient. Wow.
You don't think this is a game with your kids?
I think it serves two purposes. I think you are absolutely right that this is it. A, it serves the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And B, it's another way to further subdivide the society based on some other weird line, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it's also, there's 3. Finally, I can get gold medals.
Yeah.
There's 3. So
yeah.
Anyway, $1.5 million a person.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and just kind of, as a doctor, you probably need to transition. You probably need to, because it doesn't stop. continues for the rest of their life. They're on
Yeah, you are a permanent patient.
Yeah.
And the parents that are doing this, one day I believe that this is gonna come into court and be settled, and these people will be put in prison, or they'll for child abuse. But when you're talking about making a young child, you think about a young girl. That young girl is, and there's thankfully a lot of people that are detransitioning and are being outspoken about it. Thank heavens.
It's like a massive wave happening.
Oh, it's huge. But the fact that these parents put the kids through that in and of itself is 100% child abuse. And I just hope that those parents are held to account, because there are girls who will never have kids. There are girls who will never, feed their kids.
Right.
There are boys who will be, forever stunted in a myriad of other ways.
What kind of parent doesn't want a grandkid?
Yeah,
I don't understand. Well, obviously the same kind of parent that doesn't want their own children.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
So this is born before traditionalist, American self-identified. This is for the whole movement. Has gone born 1946 to 1964. It was 2.6%. Born before 1946 was 0.8%. Baby boomers born 1946 to 1964 is 2.6%. Double it again, Gen X 4.2%. Double it again, millennials 10.5%. Double it again, Gen Z born 1997 to 2003 is 20.8%. And so this has doubled over time since people born before 1946 until now.
What happened in like the 40s and 50s that would create this problem?
I mean, in the 40s and 50s?
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain it, because
I'm gonna. You're drawing
for
a blank. Isn't it interesting that the moment that feminism decided to rear its ugly head, right?
Yeah.
The gender roles became more fluid, right?
Yeah.
They became more. I mean, we had the destruction of the nuclear family. Okay. When those things happened, yes, this is the result. It's a byproduct. And here's what's funny is that the pharmaceutical industry, which is just all about making money, sees this as an opportunity that they can seize upon.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than fixing the problem, which is a mental health problem, rather than fixing the problem, or it's just a stage or a phase, right? So, all right, if Tommy wants to put a dress on and he's 4, so what? Let him play in his dress. What does it matter, right? He'll outgrow it. We no longer think that way. We stopped thinking that way. No. He's not going to outgrow it. This is who he is. This is his true self. What are you talking about? He has no idea what. He's asking me to wipe him still. He doesn't know his true self, right?
Yeah.
There's no concept. They can't. And so, but this started back in the 50s and 40s. It's
These are luxuries. These are first world luxuries. So along those same lines, I've been reading a lot about the feminist movement and how it's changed our society.
What? That could be next week's show.
Yeah. Oh gosh, let's do it, because I'm reading a biography right now on Calvin Coolidge, and starting about talking in the 20s and the suffrage movement that went on. All the things we were going through in the 20s, and then how that impacted us in the future. But either way, these are all things that come from a very successful society where men had made the world, and had made the life of everyone so easy that now today we see a man sitting at a keyboard, clickety clacking on a keyboard, and there's a lady sitting next to him, clickety clacking on a keyboard, and they are working in the same place, and all of a sudden it's this comparison that we are exactly the same type of person and we are interchangeable in every conceivable way since women came into the workforce. I'm not opposed to women coming into the workforce, but I'm just saying that this, trying to make women more like men men saying, well, if women are now going to take this role where they no longer need a man, which is what feminism has told them, then I don't need a guy, and I'm interchangeable with a guy anyway. I can do anything that a guy can do, which is wrong, first off. But
I saw the best meme about this the other day.
oh yeah,
Oh, man, it's the same as the woman's like, I can do anything a guy can do.
yeah.
And it pans to a guy and he says, really? How about this? I'm sorry, honey. I was wrong. I thought that was fantastic.
Well, we're in a world again where it's so. That's really good.
Yeah, isn't it good?
That's really good.
Every guy listening is like, yeah, that's yeah.
Where we're so safe that we're not killing the bears, we're not fighting off the wolves,
right.
We're not staving off any of those things.
But
we're not.
here's the damage that it's done. Oh, we got to get into this next week. It's 9:55. The damage that it's done is that women are no longer safe. They're no longer cherished. They're no longer loved and
100%.
upheld. And they've done this to themselves. And so
And weak beta men have helped.
absolutely. We've done it. We've allowed it,
Yeah.
right? Instead of saying,
Well,
hey,
who gave them the right to vote? Like, let's be honest. When they didn't have the right to vote, who was holding all the leadership positions? And men. And what were a large portion of the women didn't want the right to vote because they said we don't have to go to war. So again, these beta men said, all right, fine, we'll give you the right to vote. You don't have to go to war. You get all that. And now we've seen what that has done politically because 67%, 67, I've also read 75%, somewhere in that neighborhood are voting Democrat. So they knew this. They knew that messaging was going to lean more towards women and beta men. And that's what it's come since the 19th Amendment.
and as men become more and more,
Amendment? Yeah.
more and more beta, right?
Yeah.
Like it just, the wheels on the bus are just falling off, right?
Yeah.
So one closing parting shot. We got a few minutes. I just wanted to ask you this.
Yeah.
because Let's pretend I'm Donald Trump for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. My hearing's in New York.
Yeah.
Everything is New York centric. What if I just decided not to show up and went to Mar-a-Lago, and what are they going to do? Extradite me? Not from Florida. Right?
True. Well,
I mean, maybe.
maybe.
But you've got to know, like the dog and pony show that's going on there. What would happen if he just said, yeah, you know what? No, I'm going to the Supreme Court, and then I'm also going to see my son graduate. And if you don't like it, pound sand. I'm going to Florida.
I think that we talked about this before the show. Yeah. I think that there are a significant number of federal agents that would happily go into Florida and arrest him. I think there are probably
it's not a federal issue.
It's not, but I think that there are some state cops as well who would work because they can cross state lines. Somebody who's a felon goes into another state, they can still. There's ways for them to still arrest the person, right? They don't just walk on a felony if it's considered a felony. Misdemeanors.
Okay. And the reason
I'm saying,
I hear you, but did you see that there's now a bill being pushed that that you lose your Secret Service in prison?
Yes, I did hear about that.
You don't think this is a plan? They're trying to kill him.
They want him gone in every possible way. I've always said this is why people should like him, even though you might not like his style, you might not like his delivery, you might not like his past lifestyle, which I don't.
No.
And there's a lot of things I don't like about him. But the fact that we as conservatives who have an inherent distrust, A, for government, but B, for a big, monstrous federal government and a Uni-party, the fact that the Uni-party wants him gone so bad is the number one selling point for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
John Trump, because
It's funny. The more they rattle about this, the more they go after him, the more he grows in popularity.
Yep.
It's completely backfiring on him.
They try to take him for $500 million. Well, it's 400 and some odd million. What does he do? True Social.
Yeah.
He gets $3 billion and he just got a bonus for $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
And
The
you
guy's
look at
Teflon.
You look at the rallies. You look at anything and you just apples and oranges. I mean, it's like you can't compare the two party right now. You can't compare the energy. You can't compare anything that's going on in the Republican camp, the conservative camp, I'm not going to say Republican.
No. Republicans, we got to find a new word.
Republicans are done.
Yeah. They're Uni-partians. Yeah.
So this guy has generated a fever,
Yeah.
and it's going to be an interesting election.
You know, it's going to be a lot of, this summer is going to be very telling.
It's going to be very telling.
But I will tell you that if people would sit down and actually listen to the messaging behind the messaging behind the messaging for the Democrat Party there is no messaging behind the messaging. They're upfront and very frank about their messaging, and that is, we do not like this country. We do not like any of our Judeo-Christian principles, and you know we are all about division. It's all about.
We don't like the Jews.
That's what they say. If they're
I mean,
and
yeah.
so you go with the conservative side, and it's just this inherent love for our country and wanting to preserve what used to be a really great country.
Yeah, baseball and apple pie.
Baseball and apple pie,
That's what
right?
you want.
Now we can spend a lot of episodes talking about all the stuff going on behind the scenes and how much of that was a facade versus, with all the deep state and all those folks. But at the end of the day, I still believe we've had leaders in the past elected because they actually do love this country and they do want to see this country succeed.
Yeah.
And the opposite is true with the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has done everything to move this country towards socialism. And just look at history, people. The socialism, the hundreds of millions of people that have died because of it. So it's pretty clear which side you have to side on.
Yeah. But we can't see over our phone.
Yeah.
So
Get outside the algorithm.
yeah. Actually, just get outside.
Yeah, touch some grass.
I mean, just do something different.
Yeah.
Well, as always, it's been a pleasure to be with you guys for the last hour. If you have questions or comments, we did have a comment our last episode about how we were wrong on our view for abortion. I just want to address that. I'm not going to say that you're wrong for your view of abortion. I don't think you're wrong. I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. It all comes down to when you view life beginning. And we believe life begins when life actually begins, at conception. And if you don't believe that, then the definition game and the he said, she said, you're wrong, I'm right, whatever, you can't have the conversation. I mean, there's no conversation to have if you don't believe on it. There's no baseline. So if you don't have a baseline, what are we talking about, right? So at any rate, I did want to address that. I did read it. I did not respond. I wanted to respond on air. So yeah, if you're listening, you are more than entitled to your viewpoint and your opinion about it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that you're wrong. I'm going to sit here and say that your view of when life begins is different than mine, okay? And different than the biblical viewpoint. The Bible says that God knit us together in our mother's womb. That means he knew us then, he knows us now. So at any rate, I didn't want to address that. But if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you can feel free to email us at thebraverthantheRest@gmail.com, thebraverthantheRest@gmail.com, or go ahead and message us on Rumble or Facebook or anywhere else that your favorite T-shirts are sold. So, as always, braver than the rest. Have a blessed week. Keep your eyes up.